Hi, my name is Doris, and this is Heart of Stitches. This is the eighth episode, and I have to say, I've enjoyed the community. I've enjoyed the comments. I enjoy cataloging my own progress. I think it's keeping me more accountable. If maybe adding a little bit of stress as well, but we could talk about that later. Today, I have one finished item which I'm wearing, um, three whips, an acquisition, and then six things. So I'm trying my mic on a stand, so it's actually up above my head because I tried it last time on my sweater and I kept whacking it. So that's not going to work. I had tried it on the table, and when I moved things around on the table, it was making noise. So we're going to try this. I have a one of those things you clamp onto a table that holds your phone. So I have it on that thing. Um, One of the things on my last podcast, which was mainly about my trip to Scotland, is it was so long and I had to edit so much out of it, just because I sort of tend to blather on and on. And one of the things that I did inadvertently edit out is any reference or thanks to the grocery girls for hosting the Scotland trip. So, not to be remiss in that they were wonderful. So thank you, Jody and Tracy. Thank you to Irish Tourism and our tour guide Pauline. They were wonderful. The trip was so well organized. We ran into a big storm and had to change where we were going to have lunch, change the roads that we were going to go. And if we didn't know that she told us we were changing our itinerary, we wouldn't have known. I mean, it was pretty seamless. And the grocery girls are exactly as you'd expect them from their podcast. They are so warm and inviting to the entire community. Nobody felt left out. They didn't, go off with certain people and not talk to others. Jody, especially, is very funny. And she seemed to make a real point of asking everybody questions about themselves. She's very, very engaging and, a little bit of a social butterfly. So I just wanted to, for anybody who did see the last podcast, I didn't not want to thank the grocery girls. I clipped it out by accident. Um, so what I'm wearing today is the um, the 24 Birds. It's by Helen Stewart. It was a make along from last year or the year before, and I'm not sure which. And it's a circular shawl lace pattern. So it was a joy. I had never made anything, everybody's made, the few little yarn overs kind of lace, but I had never made a lace pattern before. And it was a pure joy. So I had heard about it from Lena on another knitting pod, and she's one of the podcasts I really enjoy. Um, she ended up bailing and didn't do it. And after I started the 24 birds, they had come out within a couple days, but I had already started a 12 birds, which is just a semicircle. Yeah, but that I think would have more purling. So yeah, I might have lucked out, even though it was a lot more knitting and it's very voluminous. I normally don't wear it like this. If I was up, north where it's colder, I might, but down here in Florida, it's usually interchangeable with this is the Geo Gradient shawl that's behind me now. This one's sometimes there. Sometimes nothing is there. If the cat gets in here, my daughter has two cats, and the boy cat bites things. So I try to really keep him out of here. The girl cat is a really nice cat, but she tends to walk and get her nails stuck in things. So I try to keep her off at least the back of my chair. But anyway, the knit along was inspired by William Morris textiles and wallpaper and art. So before, when you signed up, you got, the instruction page, and it had said it was going to be William Morris inspired. So I had gone on the internet and found patterns that I liked. What would inspire me from the repertoire of William Morris art. And I had picked the tulip and willow pattern, the cabbage and vine tapestry, or the strawberry thief. And they all were very um, similar in colors, with a deep mossy kind of green and a powdery faded blue, some white. But there's other patterns that have more red and yellow in them. There's the willow bough pattern that's a very vibrant leafy green. So people shawls, and some people didn't do the William Morris theme and just pick whatever colors they wanted, but I did. And William Morris was born in the 1800s, or lived in the 1800s, and he's an English artist, textile designer. Really a Renaissance man. I think he was a poet and wrote a novel. He did everything. Um, so I will put up some pictures of the screenshots that I took that inspired my color choices. So my yarn is Madelinetosh Merino Light, and it's 4 colors. So they did similar to what Stephen West does with colors A, B, C, D. So my color A is this white, and it is called 11 Light, and it's an off sort of creamy white with little specks of blue and deep purple and green. I think there was some yellow. I did this a while back. My next color was The Mountains Are Calling, and that was a variegated colorway with blues and greens and lighter blues. My color C was Aura, which is the the grayish blue here. I'll take this off and show you again. And then my color D was called Gray Gardens, and that's this heathery, mossy green color. Of course, just did whatever she said on the pattern. The only thing I did differently is people had been showing in the MusiKAL group that they have on Ravelry prior Helen Stewart designs, and one of them had beading. So I added 4 rows of beading on the end of mine. So I did it every other row, maybe every third row. No, it must be every other. Anyway, I have 4 beads on the end of here. So let's take it off. I will, if this doesn't capture on camera, I will take a close-up picture, but there's the beads that I added. So they were called Crystal Gold check seed beads that I bought at Michael's. So I mean, they were nice, but they weren't, special beads. And the number is 4-0. So I think that's millimeters, or I'm sorry, I said 4, 6/0. I think that's the millimeters. So in order to do the beading, I ended up buying all of this gear. And the thing that actually worked for me with this size yarn and this size bead was this. You won't be able to see it. I'll have to put a close-up picture, but it's a tiny little hook. So you could, and it's curved in, so you can catch your finger on it, but you mostly don't. It's just this little wire thing. But I had bought a set of other wiry things to do. This thing that was like a nicer handle, but the thing that worked the best was this, fairly inexpensive wire thing. But these are the beads that I bought, and I used the whole tube except for the ones I dropped on the floor, and these stuff. And there are some loose beads in this little container. Doing the beads was one of those things. It's not that fun to do, really, but they look so nice, so then it's sort of fun to do. So as long as you're not doing a ton of it, it was fun to put them on there. So I will hold this up again so you can see the colors better. So the white was called 11 Light. The variegated, which, if you're going down, is the next one. Mountains Are Calling, Aura, and then Grey Gardens is the green. All of them Madelinetosh light. It was so my knuckles got caught up somehow. It was a great knit. I really enjoyed making it. I enjoy this item, and the yarn was very nice. And it all was done on a 6 millimeter or a number US number 6 4 millimeter needle. Helen Stewart has an MusiKAL coming out in December, or it might start sometime in November. That's a holiday make along. That's all accessories. I think it's 4 or maybe 5 weeks of accessories. So I'm going to buy that pattern or MusiKAL download. Um, I'm not a big hat knitter, but if there's some shawls or some, I've never made mitts. We'll see what it is, but it was a lot of fun, and I have a few skeins of what I sort of refer to as orphaned yarn, and so I would like to find something to do with those. My first work in progress, and this one is on hold currently, is the DRK Everyday Cowl by Andrea Mowry. This, nothing to do with the pattern, but I've had so much trouble with this yarn, just procuring the right yarn. So I had originally bought a kit from Yarn Attic with this yarn, which is called Mineral Resources, and it is by this company, which I'm not going to say right, Chopel Edition 3. And when the pattern came with the kit. According to the way Andrea Mowry writes it, it's going to take 150 grams of fiber, and you're doing 1 by 1 striping, so that you would need 75 and 75. But what they gave me was a 100-gram skein of the oatmeal color and a 50-gram skein of this. So I'd written to them, and they said, nope, they have testers and it's absolutely the correct amount. Everything's good. But I didn't really believe it. I figured Andrea Mowry knew more about her pattern. So I went back online to get another ball of this, and they didn't have it. So what I bought was this one. I bought 2 of these and another ball of the oatmeal color, and made one for my son's girlfriend. So that is completed, and I gifted it to her a couple of years ago. So in fact, I did run out of this yarn on her cowl. I had 51 grams left. So out of the 50-gram ball, I used 19 grams. So I don't want to buy another ball of this self-striping yarn. So what I've done is I cast on using the leftovers from I don't want to say my daughter-in-law because they're not married, but my son's girlfriend's cowl went for quarter of the way, and you could sort of see where it's a darker palette, and then moved to this one, which is the one that I had originally bought for myself. So I'm going to use this until to its entirety, and then go back to this one. One thing I did do is where it's very red, I pulled that out. I did let a little bit of the red get through over here, but not so much that it's a big problem or anything. And the colors do match outside of the red. The one that's my original one has turquoise and green in it, which is not in this one. And this one has red, which isn't in mine. But there is, and like you could see it there, a lot of the lavender and gray in both. So it matches well enough. And the way this cowl is constructed, the corners where you start and end will be in the back. So this is where you seam. So that will be, the back seam. This, right, what I have going so far is the top. And then it's working down to a neckerchief. It's sort of shaped like home plate or a upside down pentagon. So this will be the bottom. This will be the top. and you seam it here. So this will work fine for me. My problem is when I bought the 2 balls of this and another ball of the um, I can tell you what it is. Sueño from Haiku, and it's the colorway Shifting Sands. So I have a ball of this somewhere. I threw it because I'm mad at it. Um, I'm in the Edinburgh airport and I switched to the second ball. And it's not, this is DK. And what I bought was worsted. So in the Edinburgh airport, I went on Amazon and ordered another ball or skein of Sueño Haiku Shifting Sands. Well, when it came, it's worsted again. So I don't know if I made the mistake or if somehow, on Amazon, sometimes things aren't exactly labeled as what they are. So I've ordered another skein of this yarn uh, in DK, and I took a screenshot that it absolutely says it's going to be DK. So I'm going to keep this one because legit it could have been my problem. And then I have two, and with two skeins I can make another cowl or a hat or something. One skein isn't that much to do anything with, but two skeins. So I do like this yarn a lot. So I'm going to keep the two worsted. One of them's been balled up for 2 years, so I mean I do have to keep that. But this one I could have sent back, but I'm going to keep it. This is on hold until it says that the new skein is coming next Wednesday. So I would say I am not half, maybe close-ish to halfway done with this. If this is the neck, right now it would strangle me. So I think I'm about halfway-ish. When we stop increasing and start decreasing, that's obviously the halfway mark. So I'm not there yet. But this is a really nice pattern. It's basically garter stitch with some slip stitches in it with an I-cord on the edges that show. This raw edge is where you seam, so it's not an I-cord there. It's a little fiddly while you're increasing on both sides because you're increasing and switching the yarns at the same time. Where I am now, and I'm only increasing on one side, and it's the side opposite where you change the colors. Now it's not fiddly at all, and the pattern's very easy to remember. There's intervals, and you always slip on the same stitch, so you don't have to really remember. It is all written out, counted, how many to slip, how many to knit. But once you have these ladders going up, you don't need to keep looking at the pattern. It's just if you need to start a new slipping area, it's that certain number away from the last one. So I'm anxious to get this finished just because I like the one that I gave to my son's girlfriend so much. It was very, very pretty. I like this palette for me better with the lavenders and greens. Green tends to be my favorite color. I always say it is, but I probably pick pink more often. So I probably have, a week of knitting once I get it back, get the yarn from Amazon. And if I don't get it from Amazon, I'll go back to Attic. I mean, there were other vendors that had it. It's just since I was in the airport, it's so easy to order from Amazon. So that is on hold until more yarn comes. My other whip is the Riptide Scarfette, and that is by Jennifer Shiels Toland. I think this Riptide pattern is a series of patterns, all with this little rickrack zigzag detail in it. I think just this last week she dropped a pattern for a V-neck sweater. I think it's called the Riptide Sport, which I would make that. This little detail. It's, you know, it's easy to do. The sweater looked nice that was the sample one. This is 100% cashmere held double with one of the um, stabilizing strands that they give you. Since this is a, you know, tie around your neck kind of thing, I probably didn't need to do that, but I did include it. Um, I've used this yarn before to make the string of pearls sweater that I have worn on here before. I didn't have trouble with it tangling then, but maybe because that was stockinette, and since I keep having to, you know, go back and forth with this, I was having some trouble with tangling. So I have it in, I don't know if you could see it. The stabilizing is in that ceramic bowl. One of them is in just a yarn bowl pulling from the middle, and the other one is on one of these spinny things. I'm sure it has a name, but I don't know what it is. Um, that just, you know, spins the yarn out. And that's worked well for me. So I, you know, try to turn one way and then turn back the other way so I don't keep twisting it. Right now, mine is 16 inches long. For the large size, I think it's 56 inches. So I am almost a third of the way. They have a smaller version this one is 4.5 inches wide. The smaller one, I think, is only 2.5 inches wide. You know, I just made the longer one. It's a once you get to the straight, so you follow the pattern until you get up to where it's straight, and then it's a 4-row repeat, and you don't really need the pattern. You can sort of tell between where the yarn overs are and two togethers, you know, which way you should be doing it. This uses a size 7 needle, which I think I'm going to switch them because I don't know if I like this square needle, but this is either Knitter's Pride or Knit Picks Cubics. I know it's called Cubics. Size 7, 4.5 millimeters. Mine had a ding in it, even though I had just taken it out of the package. And I used one of those cheap emery boards, nail files with like the foam core. You know, you get them for a couple dollars anywhere. And it really worked. You can I can still find where the ding was because I think it went right through the wood. And every once in a while it sort of raises up again. I think basically there's probably, because I filed it, sawdust stuck in there, and then when it loosens out, there's still a little bit of a burr. And somebody in my comments had written to put wax paper on the tip, you know, after I filed it, and I did do that, and I think that helped it as well. So this is probably, I mean, I brought it to Scotland with me. I didn't work on it. Um, it's a little fiddly because you're just going back and forth, but other than that, you know, there's just a lot of turning the row. And for me, when I have to turn a row, it gives me every opportunity to go look at my phone or go do something else. So I'm finding that I'm not moving through it fast. And I don't think it's the pattern. I think it's me having squirrel moments every time I have to switch to a different row or finish the 4-row repeat. It's like once I finish the 4-row repeat, I feel like my brain is like, okay, now what? So that's a me problem, not a pattern problem. My 4/3 whip is the artwork by Hinterm Stein. I'm using Mountain Meadow wool in natural. It's their Cody base, which is a 2-ply sport. And it just on the tag says Mountain Merino wool, but I went and ordered 2 more skeins because I think it's going to be a little short. And it's made out of a whole slew of different sheep that are listed. I went to Woolly Thistle's website to order this. So it's very, very nice yarn. I'm using a size 6 needle, but my problem, and which is why I'm not gonna frog the whole sweater. I'm gonna frog the sleeves. So here's the front. Here's the back with that great detail with that tab and the patterned sleeves that come from there. My sleeves are just too big. So this is jingling, I'm sorry. Um, they're just too big. So I started, as you can see from these markers, um, decreasing at faster and faster intervals until down here I'm like decreasing. And so now I've got this little sort of pucker, going here because I'm trying to decrease so much. So my son had stopped by yesterday, and then my daughter came in, and I tried it on for him, and they were both like, "Yeah, take it out." So I'm going to do that. I've never had to frog anything. I've tinked back or I've pulled out a couple rows, but I've never really just sat there pulling my yarn out, which that'll be a new experience for me. I'm going to try to put this on over this t-shirt because I have it on silicone tubing at the bottom and the other sleeve. And sorry about this jangling, but I can't put it on without it doing that. Oops. All right, that's not going to work out very well. Ow. Lose half my hair. Okay. All right, so see right here is where it's just too big. There's a lot of extra, and then I'm trying to go in too fast. So I'm going to frog it to the armpit, or almost to the armpit. I don't want to have to pick up those stitches again. And then I'm literally going to count my rows and count how many I need to decrease, and then plot it out, whether it's every 8 or every 10 or even every 7. This broken rib is a 2-row, so I've been always doing it on the purling row. But whatever I have to do to get this sleeve to, because it's not so big under my arm. It's big, but it's not terrible. It's just that I didn't decrease enough. So I'm going to do over with the sleeves and see how that goes. It will be a little bit of a big sweater once I block it because I have this puckering here, but it's a warm sweater, so I don't mind it being big, especially if I wear a turtleneck underneath it or something like that. Sorry about this noise. I'll get it off as fast as I can. But it is a beautiful pattern. I like that sweater so much, and I'm very disappointed in myself, really, that I effed up the sleeves. I needed to add rows, so I kept doing the sleeve pattern. So I ended up having too much in the sleeve. So we'll keep you posted on that. Once I frog it, it might have to go into timeout for a minute because it's, I don't know. I get mad at my knitting projects when they're not doing what I like them to do. The last thing is the next thing is my acquisitions. I have 2, technically 3, but one of them's not here yet. The postal strike in Canada. So I had ordered the yarn for the MusiKAL, and they shipped it, and everything was beautiful. It was supposed to be here when I got back, and it wasn't because of the postal strike in Canada. So it sat there for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. Now they're doing rolling strikes. So I think that they have not resolved between labor and company their issues yet, but they are getting mail through. So I got mine. Everything's fine with that. I have been watching people's progress on the MusiKAL, and so many of them are so beautiful. I tend to like the ones with really low contrast for this one. So when everything was stuck in Canadian post office, I ordered some yarn from Madelinetosh, and it's not here yet, but I ordered a very low contrast taupey lavender gray. So I'm going to not cast on the MusiKAL until I get the Madelinetosh yarn, and then decide which one I'll use for the MusiKAL. And then the other one will still be a Stephen West pattern, but just not the MusiKAL. So if I go with the Madelinetosh yarn, which is the low contrast, more neutral palette, I will use the yarn from Frankie Grey Fibres for either the Achievement Badge shawl or the Aurora Cabin shawl. They both took 4 different colors. One of them actually might have been 5, but I have a mohair dare and I bought a complimentary mohair, so I think I can make it work, even though they're calling for 5 skeins and I only have 4 of the wool. I think I can make it up with the mohair dare. So let me show you what I got from Frankie Grey Fibres. I was going for a palette that looked like sea glass. So I'm very, very happy with these, but just looking at people's MusiKALs, I sort of have been gravitating to the low contrast ones, even though I bought pretty high contrast colors. So I think I'm going to try to sketch out. I have a set of markers and see if I can make this work, because this is what my original intent is. And I'm one of those people that you make a plan, you execute the plan, you don't, go changing the plan all the time. But I might. This was my mohair dare, and I'm finding that looking at other people's progress, this might be too big of a color pop with these. I don't want to give away any of the pattern, but there's one area where he does the mohair dare that it's showing a lot of the mohair dare color pop. So I don't know if I want to do that. And then there's another part of the clue where each of the 4 colors is shown sort of evenly. I think I'm just gonna do a coloring book sketch of the MusiKAL in the shapes that it is, and see if I can make this work. And then I definitely will use this. And then if I use the Frankie Grey Fibres for the MusiKAL, then I will either make the glittering snowscape or the Pierre shawls with the low contrast palette coming from Madelinetosh. So I love both the yarns, and whichever one goes to whichever pattern. It's not a judgment on the yarn at all. It's just a style, just choice. I also got from Frankie Grey Fibre, and I love this yarn. I have 4 of these, but I only put 2 on my table. This is a linen base, so it's extra fine merino and linen fingering. So it's 80% what they're calling micron merino and 20% linen. This is the colorway called Storm, and there is a Isabel Kramer pattern. I think it was Isabel Kramer, called Fiorino or Fiatino. I'll put the name up on or a picture of it on the screen, and that's what this is. And it's a textured yoke. I'm going to swatch for it first. One of the things she had said in the pattern was to make sure the yarn had resilience if you don't use the base that she had asked for. So this is 80% merino, so I think it's going to be fine, but I will, maybe do a little bit of the textured work in a swatch and just make sure you can see. I don't want to do all that work and not see my stitches. But this is lovely. It feels nice and cool. So being down here in Florida, I think this will be at least a few months out of the year, a wearable sweater with the linen. And last, the 6 things. And today, my 6 things are to do with women, supporting women supporting other women, standing up for women. I was watching a podcast that I normally like, and the woman had said, she was talking about a designer who gets some heat, and and she said because the knitting community is 90 80 90% women, that you can expect gossiping, backbiting, jealousy, and little piddling nonsense. And I took offense with that comment. That's not the way I find women. Some women, of course, some men, of course. I don't think being jealous or being gossipy is restricted to one sex or the other. And so I wrote her, in the comments that I don't agree with her take on women, and she waited a couple weeks, but then she did write back and said she didn't think that that comment was controversial, and that if you think about it, when you think of people in a group gossiping, it's usually women. So she sort of doubled down on, women. And that is a stereotype of women. And I believe it's true for some women. Of course it is. But it's true for some men. When I was working, we were in our group was probably 75% women and 25% men. And the two biggest gossips in my working group was the two men. Um, or maybe I just don't hang around with women who buy into a lot of jealousy and backbiting and nonsense kind of things. I tend to, move away from drama. So maybe it's not my interactions with women because I don't interact that way. But anyway, I'm not going to mention the podcaster because I don't want to get in a fight with anybody. But I think we can do better supporting other women. And what I find with the knitting community is that they are very supportive and very friendly. And my experience with doing this podcast, less than 1% of the people that view it comment. Probably not even 1%. So I think when people comment, and the same is true for TikTok and Twitter, I think what we believe everybody thinks isn't true because it's the loud, whether it's politics or religion or a celebrity. I think a lot of the comments are made loudly from a small portion of the population. So anyway, soapbox moment, but we will move on. But all of my 6 things are supporting women. So Miranda Hart, who I love, she was chummy on oh shoot, I'm not remembering the name. Call the Midwife. She had a show in England that I've never seen because I don't live in England. She came out with a book today called The Christmas Tree That Loved to Dance. And that just seems like I don't know anything about this. I don't think it's a kid's book, even though that sort of seems like it would be a kid's book's name. It's got, excuse me, it's got 160 pages, so it's not a read to children's book. But when she was launching it today, she did a video on Instagram where she was dancing with all the moves and the same music as Diane Keaton, Bette Midler, and Goldie Hawn did at the end of First Wives Club. So I think that was a little homage to Diane Keaton, who we lost. So I appreciated her, supporting Diane Keaton. I want to support her book launch. I read her book. I haven't been totally honest with you about. She has had some dealings with long-term illnesses and just not feeling well and being undiagnosed. So it was a good book. So if anybody's wants to look up Miranda Hart, she's pretty funny on Instagram. My next was also an Instagram person, and it's called Bee and Lynn, and it's Bee and Lin, Lynn, and it's 2 women who are retired. I think they're a couple, although they've never explicitly said that, but the way they act together and different things they've done, I think they're a couple. And Bee tells Lynn jokes, and Lynn tries to be like, oh, I don't want to hear it, but then she always laughs or giggles at the end. So they're very funny. Sometimes I find myself like just belly laughing at their stupid jokes, and the jokes are puns or little riddles. They're not like long jokes or political jokes or anything like that. They're not mean spirited in any way. They're usually like a pun. But check them out. I will put their picture and Instagram handle up there. my next one, I literally was crying watching Dancing with the Stars. I'm a few behind, or I caught up because of being on vacation. But Elaine Hendricks, who I don't follow as an actress, but she was the mean girlfriend in The Parent Trap um, years and years ago with Lindsay Lohan and Natasha Richardson and Dennis Quaid. Um, she on the set of this movie meets Lisa Ann Walter, who has been in a ton of good movies. I think right now she's on Abbott Elementary, but she's one of those like Spitfire kind of girls. So yeah, I would tell you like it is women, and they're best friends apparently. So it was dedication night, and you got to dance with the person that you were dedicating it to if they were alive. Some people did, mothers or grandparents that weren't alive. Um, their dance was lovely. You could tell these two women love each other. And they were just so supportive. And then they pan to the crowd, and Dennis Quaid is in the crowd. And two women that could be that good of friends. Lindsay Lohan was a kid in that movie, and she's an adult with kids now. So, like, I don't know when that movie was produced, but it's decades ago. And these two women have been best friends ever since. And I love that for them. I love that for any women to find. If you can find a friend that close to laugh with and suffer with, you found something special. I'm lucky enough to have a sister, but not everybody does. And if you can find a friend, good for you. Number 5 was the women on our Scotland trip. Uh, Everyone was so friendly and supportive. Even yesterday, one of the women put out pictures of a cowl and a hat that she had made from the alpaca wool that we got at Bowbridge Alpacas. And she's using one of Tracy Miller's patterns, and, almost to a one. I didn't count if everybody responded, but it was great job, lovely, good. It was just supportive, nothing but support. And I feel privileged to have met all of the women that I met on our trip. And then the last one, I wrote good for me. I think as women, we need to support ourselves. So what I'm finding in my life is because I'm here in Florida, I'm not seeing my friends as much as or at all, really. I try to keep in touch with them as best I can on, with not Instagram, on Facebook, or on text or anything. But I'm finding myself farther and farther from my own friends, and because I'm babysitting my grandchildren, it can be very stressful, and I'm finding that I'm stressed. So, just in an effort to support myself, I'm not depressed. I'm not, having any big issues, but I could be happier. I could be doing more for me. So, one of the things that I wrote down 3 things that I need to do for myself. So they say if you practice a habit for 2 weeks, it'll become like a lifelong habit. So hydration. I think I drink a lot because I always have a cup of tea with me, but half the time it's cold, so that means it has been sitting there for a while. So one of the things that I am going to do for myself, nutrition and diet wise, is to drink like a whole bottle of water every morning. I'm going to, after this, go out to the grocery store and get some lemons. I had 2 really big kidney stones a decade ago, but the urologist had told me to drink acidulated water, which is anything with lemon juice, lime juice, or even orange juice, I guess, or coconut water. But I found that very unpalatable, and it's quite expensive. So I'm going to go get some lemons and drink, like, consciously make a point of drinking at least 8 to, I don't know how much is in those little bottles of water that my daughter gets, but somewhere between 8 and 12 ounces, I think. I'm going to try to just consciously hydrate, at least in the morning. And then I'm also going to cut out sugar. Just any kind of refined sugar. I'm just going to, at least for the next 2 weeks, not have any sugar. Um, I am a terrible, terrible sleeper. I've always been. I end up being so tired I can fall asleep, but I can't stay asleep. So I only get like 4 hours of sleep a night. Um, and then I'll wake up and I'll be awake for 2 or 3 hours, and then sometimes I'll fall back asleep. So I am going to try and set like a sleep alarm. And then, or if I'm sitting watching TV and I even feel once my eyes starting to go, like, go to bed, being an idiot. Like I end up saying, oh, if I find myself dozing, I better hurry up because I wanted to do 2 more rows before I, put this down. Stop it. I need to get sleep. So I'm going to really consciously try to sleep better. And then me time. I need to get in touch with my friends. I call them up, or I used to read more than I've been reading. There in this complex, there is a pool area that hardly ever anybody's ever there. I think I might start taking a book and walking over to where it's quiet and I'm not hearing any of the household ruckus, and try to catch up on my reading or bring my knitting or take a walk by myself. I walk often with my grandchildren, but if anybody has ever walked 3 kids under 4, um, there's nothing relaxing, or you're not thinking about your exercise and how you're feeling as far as fatigue or energy. So I'm going to try and make time to, once a day for, even 15 minutes, is to sort of go off by myself and do something that's, just something for me. Whether it's reading or walking, or it's a little cold lately to go in the pool, but just do something that, like, you know, it'll be hard to shut the door on my 3 grandchildren going, take me with you. So I'm going to try, and I'll probably end up having to find time when, before they get up or after they go to bed. But anyway, I find that I think I need that for myself. And if I don't support me, who will? So those are my 6 things. I hope you have more than 6 things. Um, I do plan on trying to podcast again next week. Hopefully, I'll have well, I definitely will have frogged my artwork sleeves, and hopefully be on the way to new ones. If I did decrease flat faster, they'll go faster because I'll have less stitches in them. Um, and I'm starting to feel the pressure of my stash and all my plans. I keep adding things, and I think I just need to really plot out when I'm going to do things and in what order, and not let things fall through the cracks that I really want to accomplish, and to enjoy my knitting, because that's what I'm doing it for. But until then, I will keep you in my heart of stitches. Thank you.